Okay, hello everybody. This is Individualists Unite. I am the radical individualist, otherwise known as Chip, and this is another episode of Conversations with Real People. If you want to see all there is to know about Individualists Unite, go to individualsunite.substack.com. But right now we are going to have a conversation with Max, but only if he is in fact a real person. So Max, are you a real person?
I think.
I don't know. I think you won't swear that you are.
I'm a real person.
Okay, we'll take his word for it.
Is anything real? No. We won't get into that.
There you go. Okay. Another little interesting tidbit is that Max is my grandson, and he's here visiting from Portland,
Oregon.
Portland, Oregon. That's an important distinction to make. Yep. Okay, so we are going to discuss whatever we decide to discuss. Is there anything you want to lead off with?
I don't know. What would you like to lead off with?
Well, what do you think you want to do with the rest of your life, and how are you going to do it?
That's a good thing.
That'll take a minute.
That's a good thing to start with. That'll take a minute.
Yeah.
So I have some pretty grandiose plans, I will say. I'm a pretty grandiose person, in case you haven't already realized from seeing me. But I am not sure I can achieve those plans, but I will tell you what they are. Okay. Like in a broad sense, what I hope to do with my life. Mm-hmm. So right now, I don't have the means to do any of these things, but I hope that within the next couple of years I will. To do these things, I will have to be more self-disciplined, obviously. I will have to learn a lot more about myself, but here are these things. Number one, I want to build my house. And I have already designed it. I already have a lot of working drawings for this house. Some are plans, some are elevations, some are just sketches that aren't really organized in any way. Mm-hmm. I won't get into the house very much because that's probably not interesting for viewers, but I want to build it, and I intend to purchase, ideally, a large plot of land in either rural Ohio or rural Missouri in which I can build that house. And I have a lot of ideas going around in my head for it. I think it's going to be spectacular if I do get around to building it. The other things are, I really am interested in joining Freemasonry. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you why in a minute, but I started, because you have to be 19 in order to join a lodge, 18 in order to join a lodge, and I'm 18, and I have attended a number of lectures at my local lodge, and I went to apply, and they told me, well, you need to be self-sufficient in order to be a Mason. And I'm like, well, what do you think of that? I actually like the idea. I think it encourages people to be more independent and more, well, like they said, self-sufficient, and really have a control over their lives. Because if you're making a big decision like joining a fraternal order like that, I think you would need to be able to, first of all, pay the dues. Second of all, pay the initiation fees. Third of all, just know that you're in charge of your own life. So I have kind of been putting off getting a job because I feel like I would get fired almost immediately with the skill set that I have and the emotional struggles that I have. And
do you want to get into that a little or not?
Yeah, we can get into that.
Because I think it's significant. Significant. It matters here, yeah.
Yeah. Would you like me to explain why I'm interested in becoming a Freemason?
The emotional stuff first. Why do you think you have an issue with with getting a job and keeping a job? Because,
and I'll be honest, I'm not really good at meeting deadlines. I'm not good at, I wouldn't say oppositional, but at times I get really annoyed, and I am a hard worker when I'm interested in doing the work, but when I'm not, I often just find myself doing something else, and it's really something I need to get better at. I've been practicing at home. I do a lot of chores at home, even when I don't want to do them, but that's different than actually doing a job that you have to do. Because I'm sure my parents, if one day I said I didn't want to do whatever chore, I would just not do it, and they'd be fine with that. But a job, you've got to keep going, constantly doing the work, even if you don't feel like it. You only get a certain number of 6 days off. I just don't think it would work really for me at this moment. at this moment in time. So I think I gotta really work on the psychological stuff before I can actually get into a job or a career.
Mm. Well, I agree, because I was an employer, and there were certainly any number of employees I had who could not handle the responsibility
Yeah, responsibility, exactly.
of showing up for work every day
Yeah.
on time. I mean, how much of a responsibility is that really? But there's grown adults that can't manage to do that.
But oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say at least I recognize that I don't have that responsibility yet, because I'm sure there are a lot of people my age who would go out and try and get a job without realizing just how difficult it was, and would probably quit within the first week, if not be fired. And I think I need just more skills in that regard.
Okay, well, I'm only talking about getting up out of bed and going to work.
Okay.
That barely even qualifies as a skill. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah.
what do you think would get you fired then? Showing up late or something else?
Well, honestly, I mentioned briefly that I'm a little bit on the oppositional side.
Mm-hmm.
I respect a lot of people like my grandpa and like my parents, so I tend to do what they tell me to do because I respect them. But when there's a random stranger telling me what to do, and I don't necessarily agree with the stranger, and or I think I'm smarter than the stranger, that's difficult for me.
And what if that stranger is your boss?
That's what I'm saying. That stranger is my boss,
Well,
and I need to work on that.
you need to work on that a lot,
I
because
need to work on that a lot.
whatever the boss says, that's the way it's going to be.
Yeah, I know. I mean, yeah. Especially if I want to work in a state like Ohio or Missouri, because in Oregon, I hate to say this, but people are kind of lax about that, and I don't like the fact that they are. It would make it easier for me, but specifically in Portland, Oregon, there are laws that you can't really fire a person for a lot of things, and
There are?
I believe so.
Okay, because if I was running a business and somebody wasn't showing up for work or wasn't doing as they were instructed to do, and I say, you're not making it here.
But they can make excuses like, oh, I'm a part of this minority or whatnot, and I need work, and I need this, and I need that. I don't know. Maybe sometimes they aren't excuses, but I think most of the time people saying stuff like that, it doesn't really have much weight to go on.
Well, yeah, I get what you're saying. I hate to think it's like that anywhere, but I know that sort of thing does happen.
Yeah.
Because I see it happen.
Oh, yeah.
Which that just makes an employer think, man, do I want to hire this minority if it's more likely to cause more trouble than I need, than I already have? Why should I hire a minority and go through that? I'll just hire somebody that can count on to not be trouble.
And that's really unfortunate.
It is.
Because I feel like everybody who can work deserves work.
I'll just argue with you a little bit, confrontational.
Okay.
Nobody is owed a job.
I know.
No employer has any responsibility to hire anybody. So no, nobody's owed a job. On the other hand, in this economy where we are right now, if a person will show up and do a good job, they're going to get a job.
Yeah. They should get a job.
Well, again, I don't say should, but they will.
Yeah.
If a person has a work history of showing up for work,
And
following
doing a good
instructions,
job.
getting
Yeah.
things done, they will get work. They may not get the exact job they wanted, but they will get work.
And that's what I like about this society, and that's what I don't exactly like about a capitalist society, not a communist society. Why did I say capitalist?
Yeah, a little slip there.
That was a slip.
Because
this is a capitalist society.
Yeah, and they're just words until you define those.
Exactly.
terms.
I hate words like that. I mean, people throw them around like,
But in a true fully communist country, everybody that wants a job gets a job. You show up and say, I want a job, and they say, okay. They give you a slip of paper, say, go there, that's your job.
Yeah.
And you've got a job. But
the rest of it doesn't really work out that well.
No, it's got to work badly. If everybody gets a job, whether they're good for anything or not, guess what happens,
Exactly.
There's all kinds of studies on that even about how badly that works.
Yeah.
And capitalist is not the same as free market.
Exactly.
You can have we've had this discussion. You can have capitalism in a communist country as well as a free market country.
That's a key distinction to make.
Yeah.
I don't completely understand the exact exactly how a free market works, but I mean,
Well, it's what it says it is, and of course, there's no such thing as a truly free market.
yeah,
Economy, there's no such thing as a truly capitalistic economy. There's no such thing as a truly communistic economy.
Oh,
So
yeah.
there's all has to be weighed one against the other. But then free market, in basic theory, is people can be an employer. They can start a business and hire people
Yeah.
if they want to. People can work for them if they want to. They can quit if they want to. The employer can fire them if he wants to. You can't get more free market than
That's
that.
how I
Yeah,
always understood it.
yeah. And if you open a store, you can bring in a product you want to bring in and sell for whatever price you think people
Yeah.
will pay. And people can walk in and look around and say, that's too expensive, and walk back out.
Exactly.
Or they can say, hey, yeah, I'll pay that much for that.
the government
And they can
doesn't.
buy it.
The
Yeah.
government doesn't control the economy.
That's correct. Nobody controls the economy.
Yeah.
That's what a free market means.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, nobody controls it. I mean, people can manipulate it to some
Yeah.
degree, but they can't control it.
Well, sure. If I run a store, I'm manipulating my little economy to the extent that I decide I'm going to have a sale or not have a sale,
Yeah.
or raise prices. I'm manipulating my little bit of the economy. Yeah.
You know, the really classic image of the free market is two coffee shops next to each other, each offering coffee for a ridiculously low price, one that is slightly higher than the other. It shows. I mean, it allows for competition essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. That happens. The gas stations are notorious for that. Is they'll try to undercut each other because people will go to a gas station just based on a few cents. So one lowers their price, and then the other one lowers his price even more. Then the first guy lowers their price still more. Problem is, you get to a point they've lowered the price so much
They can't afford anything.
they're going broke. They'll do
Yeah.
it for a while, losing money just to try to gain
So then-
customers, but
Then it goes way back up.
then it has to go up again to cover their losses.
Yeah.
But that's a free market.
Exactly.
They can do that. So,
Yeah, and if that's the way it
yeah.
works, I mean, that's the way it works.
Yep. Yeah, this kind of doesn't relate specifically to anything well, it does. But so many people think that store owners set the prices, but the customers
Yeah.
do. Because
Yeah.
the store owners are taking a very accurate assessment of who's walking in and then walking back
Yeah,
out
I'll
and not
take
buying
that.
anything.
Yeah.
And they're there to sell stuff. They got overhead. They've got to sell stuff.
Yeah.
And if people aren't buying it, down come the prices.
Yeah.
Just like the gas stations we talked about.
Exactly.
So guess who sets the prices? The customers
Yeah.
do. Yeah, so-
And I feel like when things get so high, if the customers just got together and demanded that they get lower, they would get lower. But people don't think alike like that.
People try to form organizations of one form or another. Unions are like that.
Yeah, well, exactly. Unions are for pay, though.
Same idea.
Yeah.
I mean, employers should understand they're selling their labor. They're
Yeah.
selling their skills, just like a store owner is selling bread.
Exactly.
When you get down to it economically, there's no difference.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, if a bakery decides, I'm not selling bread for any less than $5 a loaf, so tough, people can react how they want.
Yeah.
If there's another bread company, guess what?
Yeah. People will go
but if you
there.
have the only bread in town, then you might get away with it. But people will buy less bread if you charge
Yeah.
more. So you might still make less than if you lowered the prices.
Exactly.
And that's another factor of economics is people think the way to make more money is raise prices, but it's entirely possible to raise prices and lose money doing it. So
I didn't think many people actually thought that.
a lot of people don't think that, but that's again free market. So
I was going to say, I mean, the way I've always understood it, and I know very little about business or economy or anything like that, but the way I always understood it was if you keep a balance between lowering the price to an extent that people will be willing to buy it, and also keeping it high enough that you're able to pay your bills, that's probably the best way to be. You just have to balance those two.
yeah, I think people don't realize what a balancing act it is. I think all these mean, greedy capitalists can just do anything they want.
Yeah.
All those mean, greedy capitalists spend all day, every day figuring out how to get customers to buy their stuff.
Yeah.
And price is a big part of getting people
And if
to
you
buy
don't
your
like
stuff,
it, you don't have to buy it.
Yeah, well, yeah. So they want people to like it, and they want a price that they'll pay. And
Yeah.
that's a constant. That's what mean, greedy capitalists spend their day doing is trying to work that out. So yeah, not easy. But if they hit right and they come up with a great product that everybody loves, hey, maybe they
Yeah.
get rich. It could happen. So
I completely respect and mostly agree with what you just said, but a funny comment that I would like to make is that if we were to go out into the street in Portland, Oregon, where I'm from, and say that, it would be like signing your own death warrant. literally, people would come to you and they would, I mean, at least they would harshly debate you, try and get you into a fight, because it's just not the way people think in my city.
Yeah, well, I know a thing or two about Portland, and I get what you're saying. The rest of the country is maybe just not quite as bad. I don't know, but people have got some really wacky ideas about reality.
Yeah, and you know, it happens everywhere. In Ohio, people have wacky ideas about reality. In Portland, people, in Oregon, people do, and in California, and Minnesota, and just about any state. And it's all slightly different. The culture of the area you're in, the region.
Regions vary, states vary, cities vary, people vary. Yeah, there's no one size fits all. Which again, I'm getting away from what we were talking about. But people say, you know, we the people of America. Well,
who are those people?
Who the hell are we the people? Because there's all kinds of different people that want different things. So.
Have you seen those signs that say, in our America, women are in charge of their bodies, love is love, this is that, that is that. They appear on every lawn in our city. And if you don't have one of those signs, you're essentially a bigot. Because if you don't put up one of those signs, it means that you don't agree with them. It doesn't mean that you don't want to express your political views like us. It means that you literally don't agree with the statement of the crowd. And people will kind of look strangely at you if you don't have one of those signs. I mean, I could be exaggerating a little bit, but...
No, I get it, because where we live, we're right next to a big university, and guess what? Everybody's a liberal there.
Well, you know...
Pretty much, but...
I'll say, I'm not liberal or conservative.
Yeah.
I just don't like to make a political expression on my lawn. And I'll just say it here. I lean more to the middle / so-called conservative side of things, but I mean, in some areas I'm very, very liberal. I'm just not leftist. I think there's an important difference to make.
Yeah, there's people that they say they're fiscal conservative, but social liberal. Probably that covers a lot of people.
And I mean, I'm socially liberal to an extent.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
Yeah. My concern is that so many people they just pick a side. They don't really think. They just this is my side. Whatever my side tells me I think, that's what I think.
And I'll say I'm guilty of that to an extent. I get really excited about certain issues, and then I gravitate to that side. But then when I'm thinking about it at night, when I'm lying in bed, I think, maybe this isn't too great.
Well, you know what I have said many times, the more sure you are that you're right, the more likely you are to be wrong.
Yeah.
Because people have just picked a side and are defending it, they're sure they're right. That's all the thinking they've ever done. In reality, issues are issues because they have at least two good sides. So if you can see only one side, you're not looking very hard.
And I don't want to get into this very much, but I am a Baconian. I believe that Sir Francis Bacon and several others wrote the works of Shakespeare. It's definitely a controversial viewpoint.
For some people, not for everybody.
But I'll tell you, there are numerous groups. We are the Baconians, who believe in the Sir Francis Bacon authorship theory. And that theory was actually the very first theory of alternate Shakespeare authorship. It came out of New Haven, Connecticut in the 1850s. And since that time, it has kind of gone to the back burner of what's accepted. In the very beginning, many people, including Mark Twain, Ralph Waldo Emerson, what was his name? Hiawatha. Longfellow.
Yeah.
They all supported it and to some extent even adhered to the theory. But now very few people are Baconians. We're considered kind of the laughing stock of the Shakespeare authorship community. But one thing I've noticed about most Baconians is that, and I don't want to get too into this, like I said, but most Baconians, now granted there are some very wacky ones out there who believe that he was like a deity or something, but most of us, we are willing to question our own thoughts. We're willing to do research. We're willing to debate thoughtfully. And the two other groups that seem to be the least willing to engage in that discourse politely and with common sense, to me, seem to be the Oxfordians and, of course, the Stratfordians. Okay. The Stratfordian theory of Shakespeare authorship is the theory that just about everyone here accepts, which is that the man from Stratford wrote it. wrote the works and attributed to Shakespeare. And like I said, we can finish this conversation in like less than a minute, but I have seen Stratfordians who have been so adamant about their belief that they are not willing to consider anything else. They call us heretics. I kid you not. The word heretic is used against everyone who doesn't agree with them. I've been called a heretic. And I think...
how much does that bother you that you're called a heretic?
Well, I'll tell you something funny. There was a certain case of a Baconian appearing on a talk show with a Stratfordian, and I won't say any names, but probably because I don't remember all of them. But this Baconian in question was called a heretic by the Stratfordian when the debate got kind of heated, and the Stratfordian said to the Baconian gentleman, "Are you a heretic?" And the Baconian responded, "All the more so after reading your book."
Okay.
So yeah.
So
that was my spiel.
Yeah. Okay. Because it is interesting how people get pigeonholed, and I know 90% of the people listening to this don't really care about Shakespeare and Bacon.
Yeah.
But the idea of this taking of sides, especially with something like this that I know you're intense about, but in the end it makes no difference.
It does. It really doesn't, and I have to admit that it makes no difference at all. But I feel like it's important knowledge to know, and I feel like the fact that people are being taught stuff in school that maybe isn't right.
Well, a lot of stuff is taught in school.
Well, yeah.
Maybe some of it deliberately, some of it accidentally. We all have, even teachers have perspectives. You can't knock that. But
it's everyone's job to take what they've learned in school, go out in the world, and apply it to the world, and see if they actually agree with it ultimately.
Yeah. But when we, I don't know why, or maybe I'm not surprised, but you start talking Bacon and Shakespeare and people taking sides on that, and how relevant is it to real life anyway? What I think of suddenly, as we're having discussion as today, is Sydney Sweeney.
Oh God.
Oh God, right. Who gives a damn, one way or the other? But how can you make an issue out of this woman wearing her jeans? I don't care one way or the other, but Lord knows the issues that's been made.
I don't know very much about that.
I know probably less than you do, and I don't care, and I don't want to know.
I mean, I've heard of it. But
who cares? But just people make issues because as they say, it sells newspapers. Not that anybody buys newspapers anymore, but the media, they have to make an issue out of something all the time. So you can't have people just sitting around agreeing. What's that good for?
And I suppose I should mention that I'm writing a novel. I started work on it actually when I was like 15, when I was last here, in fact. And it's been through many different revisions, drafts, whatnot. Finally got my hands on an editor who's really incredible. And her name, well, I won't say her name because she didn't give us permission, but I will say that her work is just fantastic. She points out every little thing that's wrong with it, but she actually gives a good explanation for why it's wrong, which is something I need. I don't need people just saying, "Oh, your work is bad." I need, what do I need to improve on? But I'm hoping to get the novel out before my 19th birthday. I've made a lot of revisions on it. I initially published it on Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, KDP, but that version I realized was very incomplete. A lot of parts of it didn't make sense. My grandpa here read it, and he recognized that some parts of it were good, but also other parts of it didn't make sense. So I've completely restructured the plot, and it's basically a different book now.
Okay, well, good.
Yeah.
But I'm impressed that you have done it once and you're actually even doing it again.
Well, thank you.
And that's something else that differentiates people. Some people just go as little as possible and they're done. They don't want to have to think about it again. And then some people, they keep working at it because they want to make it better and better.
I'm determined to make it the best it can be, and I don't care. I honestly am not offended when people tell me things that are wrong with it, because that's just an area for improvement. In the beginning, I was very offended. I mean, my piano teacher, Andrei Kitaev, who I will name by name because he's very famous and you may have heard of him, lives in Portland, of course. He is very strict at our lessons. He yells at me, but at some point I realized that that's just his way of doing things. And he told me what I do wrong, and I get it better, and it works. And he's usually happy at the end. But he's more understated in his happiness than he is in his unhappiness, let's just say.
Yeah. Well, that's funny. I think that's true of perfectionists, you know. I'm a perfectionist in a lot of things.
Yeah.
I generally just look at what I've done and say, well, that sucks a whole lot less than last time.
Yeah.
You know, so,
That's how I see it.
Yeah.
Very rarely do I do something that I'm actually pleased with. And that's why it's so crushing when you do something that you're pleased with and then people don't like it.
Yeah. Well, and I've seen things that I've stressed over, you know, it's like just not quite there, and then other people look at it and they say, hey, that's beautiful, that's wonderful, and they haven't seen any of the things that I see, but that's normal.
Yeah.
Normal. So, who are you trying to impress, yourself or somebody else?
That's the thing. In the beginning, when I was in like 4th and 5th grade, my ultimate goal was to impress the adults. I think that was everyone's ultimate goal. And so everybody goes through this specific phase in early adolescence, late childhood, where you start to feel like, oh, I'm too old for this. And I've noticed, it happening to my friends. For some reason, it happened to me a little bit earlier than it happened to most people that I've known. I think it happened to me when I was in like maybe 3rd, 4th grade. It happened to all my friends in like 6th, 7th grade or 8th grade maybe. I'm not saying that I'm like more mature than other people, but I'm just saying it's an interesting observation that it happened to me earlier, where you start to gravitate away from children's literature and more into like adult literature, but not because you really want to, but because you just feel embarrassed carrying around books with bright pictures on the cover. And I was interested in nonfiction for adults for a lot longer than I was interested in fiction for adults or for an older audience. I carried around nonfiction books when I was younger just because I loved them, and specifically books about architecture, local architectural history, in fact. Portland has an incredible architectural history, most of which is completely lost. But I remember like I said, there's that certain age, and people, most of my friends stopped reading children's books and started reading books for adults, even when they didn't completely understand them. I mean, hell, I didn't completely understand them when I started reading literature, like classic literature, but it was like it was more about my ego really than anything else. And I don't think I consciously realized that it was my ego, though, which is an interesting thing to say looking back on it.
When you say your ego, how is it about your ego? Reading a book or this book or that book?
That's good that you asked that question, because I was actually going to explain it. I need to feel validated. Well, I already am feeling validated because everyone is telling me, oh, Max, you're so smart. That's what I constantly got, because I was smart, but I wasn't as smart as I thought I was. Because everybody, mostly the teachers, they would see me, they would see my art, they would say, oh, you're such a little prodigy, you're this, you're that. So I felt like I had to prove to them that I was a little prodigy. And if they caught me reading something that was for a younger audience, I wouldn't meet that standard. And this was far gone by the time I was in 5th or 6th grade. By that time, I had come to terms with the fact that I liked some children's literature, I didn't like others. I liked some literature for adults, I didn't like others. But before that, it was it was very much like I needed to show people what I was.
Keep going.
Keep going?
No, I just had to check the settings, that's all.
Yeah, and some of my favorite authors actually write young adult fiction, and I'm not embarrassed to say that. I really like it, and I have clung onto it for a very long time.
Okay.
Some of you might have heard of the author Daniel Handler, aka Lemony Snicket. He writes the most incredible books for adults and for kids. Some of his adult books are actually very horny. I've seen parts of them, but his kid books, or not his kid book, but his young adult fiction, it's incredible. He draws inspiration from characters or real life people like Edward Gorey, the artist, who everybody should love and know, but nobody actually does love and know. And he created this kind of surreal, I'm talking about Snicket now, not Gorey, well, Gorey too, but Snicket created this very like surreal kind of dark, gothic world filled with
Keep going.
filled with all these very bizarre, strange, weird characters. And it's gothic in the sense that there's a lot of death, there's a lot of drama, there's a lot of eeriness, but it's also very personable in the sense that it's like approachable for young people. And he created a universe that I think young people want to immerse themselves in, because it's not like other children's books. I mean, if you've ever seen Edward Gorey's book, The Ghastly Crumb Tinies, it's about 26 dead children, and it's billed as a children's book. It goes, A is for Amy who fell down the stairs, B is for Basil assaulted by bears, etc., etc. They all die in gruesome ways. And Snicket took that into the modern era, because Gorey was writing in like the 50s and 60s. I mean, Snicket took that into like the very modern era by writing about... He wrote these novels. They're each about like 300 pages or so, 200 pages. And the first series that he wrote was called A Series of Unfortunate Events. And to make a long story short, these just flew off the shelves because kids didn't want to read like Judy Moody, Captain Underpants, all of that. They wanted to read like stuff with real substance. And he didn't like belittle or baby the kids who were his audience. He taught them vocabulary in this ingenious way without actually making them look small. I fell for it completely, and I learned so many words from these books. He always says, in his passages, he says, like, hypochondriac, a word which means this. And then he gives like a humorous definition that really tells you what a hypochondriac is. And it's so funny because other people will like shove it down your throat. They're like, this word means this, but he said a word which here means such and such, and it doesn't make the kids feel like they don't know the word. It makes them feel like, oh well, in this instance it means this.
Well, I'm kind of, you brought some, or as you talk about this, and what kids read and don't read and should read and shouldn't read, and what's in the library and what's not in the library.
Yeah.
What parents want you to be reading and don't want you to be reading.
Yeah.
Do you think parents and teachers are mishandling their children or misdirecting them or not letting them be children and that sort of thing?
So that's an interesting question that you say that. I would put literature, and by literature I don't mean actual literature, I mean like media, into probably three categories. One that you probably don't want your kids reading, one that you wouldn't direct your kids towards, but because they're free individuals they can read, and one that you would encourage your children to read, and one that you would you're fine with your kids reading one way or the other, you don't care. And I would put, of course, like hardcore porn would definitely be in, you don't want your kids reading this. Stuff like fiction with like some like erotic references and like not necessarily like geared towards kids, but it wouldn't necessarily kill them if they came across it. That would be in the next category of mine. You wouldn't direct your kids toward it, but you aren't going to like stop your kids from reading it. Because I mean, porn, you're probably, if you're a decent person, you're probably going to stop yourself from reading that. And it's your duty to stop your kids from reading it because you want them to be good people like you. They can't necessarily make the decision on their own. But other stuff, so I'm saying ideally really high level eroticism shouldn't be in really extreme, like gratuitous, pointless. I guess not violence, because some violence is, I think, necessary. I mean, take for instance the movie Reservoir Dogs. I think it's an excellent film. It's almost like a play.
But you don't want your 8-year-old kid watching.
Probably
that.
not.
I know I would.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I could have handled it, but I probably couldn't have. But that would actually go in a separate category. I think, like stuff that I mean, I probably could have handled it at 12. I watched it at 13, actually, with my dad.
But look at it from the other direction. If you never saw it ever, why not? Why would you? You don't need to see it.
You don't need to see it, but I think it's an art form. Whereas I don't think that porn of any kind is really an art form.
Porn.
I'm not talking about porn. I'm talking about violence.
Okay.
I'm saying this specific kind of violence that seems gratuitous but is done in an artistic way. I think that can be art. I don't think that any kind of porn is art. People may call it an art form, but I think it's just gross. No, I don't.
And I get fine for what you're saying, but what I was getting at with my question was, parents and teachers want their kids reading stuff that points their kids in the direction they want their kids to go.
Yes.
Well, to what is that direction? Number one, and number two, should they be pointing their kids anywhere?
That's a good question. And I mean, just my opinion about this, like I said, all this is my opinion, and I'm not even sure if this will be the opinion I have in 10 years. I'm always careful to say that because, I mean, I often change my opinions if I hear better evidence. But I honestly don't think that parents should... my dad always gave me books to read. Like, he encouraged me to read, like, To Kill a Mockingbird, because that's a very compelling story that I think every kid should read at some point. And it's compelling because it teaches an important, for lack of a better word, life lesson. And I mean, it teaches multiple. And there are other books like that. I mean, like, I can't really think of any right now, but there are tons of literature that I think is important for people to read when they're young, so that they can grow up and learn what those books have to say. But I think if a parent is, for instance, really into a certain topic and is really pushing that topic on their kid, like, for example, they want their kid to have a similar career when they grow up, so they're trying to get them really interested in something from a young age, even when the kid isn't necessarily interested by nature, I think that that's probably wrong.
Let me cut in there, because I get that point. Here's a tricky one. What about parents who want to teach their kids the same politics? And I'm not going to get into what politics, but yes, I'm this member of this party, therefore my children need to be the same, and they need all this information. We'll call it information. I call it indoctrination.
I knew you were getting there.
Yeah, concerning my point of view, and therefore my kids have to have that point of view. To what extent does it happen? And I already know your answer. You don't support it, but what extent does it happen, and so forth?
That's an interesting question. So I'll tell you, it definitely happens. I mean, as you know it more than I do. My parents never did that to me because my parents never thought alike politically, and they encouraged free thinking. I think that was partly my dad doing that intentionally, because, not to really get into it, but his ex-wife was not a free thinker and did not encourage their daughters to think any way other than this exact rigid way. And I think my dad was kind of scarred by that, because his daughters grew up not knowing who they could trust. And my dad always told me, if you have any questions about anything, just come to me, but I want you to read and form your own opinions. And my mom was like, well, that's good, because I don't necessarily agree with... I mean, my parents have always loved each other. They've been the most incredible couple, the most incredible parents, but they don't think alike on a lot of issues. And I won't even get into that because I don't know half of what they think. They just don't talk about it.
Well, I've said before in my other conversations, I don't know how my parents voted. I don't know if they supported either party to any great extent.
That's good. And that's good, because it was their choice not to tell you, and they're right. And I mean, my dad always talks about who he votes for, but my mom, she insists on never talking about it, and I respect that more than anything. I don't even know if my dad knows who she votes for. I mean, he probably does, but I feel like in terms of parents teaching their kids their views, I think certain things you should definitely teach your kids. Like it's wrong to think less of any people on the basis of their skin color,
Well, why on the basis of anything?
on the basis of anything. Yeah.
Anything whatsoever. Why should you think less of anybody?
Exactly. That's a better distinction. It's not just like race and gender.
Because I object to all these isms, I guess,
Yeah.
racism, sexism. Well,
Like, what the hell does that even mean?
Yeah, what the point is, everybody's their own person. You take them for who they are.
And that's why you call yourself the radical individualist.
You better know it.
And that's great.
But
I would have taken that title for myself if you hadn't already taken it.
you call yourself radical individualist junior. How's that?
Okay, fair. I don't want to be junior anything, though.
Okay.
It sounds less than.
That's up to you.
Okay,
But
fair.
yeah, but that's my thing is that people categorize so much. I'm going to write something, or I'm going to speak something or something about these generations, because a while back, Tom Brokaw wrote the book The Greatest Generation.
Yes, I've heard of that.
The people who went through the Depression and World War II.
Yeah.
And made the world a better place.
Yeah.
And went through a hell of a lot, for sure.
And that's what inspired them to make the world a better place, I think.
It's how bad it was in me.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. And then I'm a baby boomer.
Yeah.
That kind of makes sense. It was a big explosion at first after World War II. Okay. But now everybody's got to be a generation. It didn't used to be like that. You didn't have it, because after all, people are born every day, every year.
Where do you make the cutoff?
Yeah, absolutely.
There has to be some major event to make the
generations
cutoff.
work within a family. You're my grandson.
Yeah.
Period. It's obvious.
Exactly.
How many years? It doesn't matter how many years. But, people across the street, they're 10 years out of sync with us, Their grandson's older and they're older, or younger and younger. Who cares?
I felt that way too, and I think it has to do with identity.
Absolutely.
Feeling like you're different, and also
the same. My generation is
a
good generation.
and also justifying the fact that you dislike and disrespect the older generations.
Or younger.
Or younger. Ways, I guess you're right. Yeah, younger too, yeah.
But my point is, it's a whole lot easier to hate a group of people or like them if they've got a name.
Exactly.
I can't stand those Gen Z people.
Yeah.
Well, if they didn't have a name, you probably wouldn't even be thinking about it.
Exactly. Grandpa, I'm going to shake your hand on that. Okay. So, that's the best thing I've ever heard today, at least.
Well, good. But we've got to categorize everybody so we can compartmentalize them. And once we've compartmentalized them, now we know who to hate, or who to like. Either
yeah,
one.
exactly.
But, what's the point?
And people really do it to themselves, and they do it to other people.
They compartmentalize themselves.
Yeah. And like I've said before, I think now is probably a good time to say it. I don't like the acronym LGBTQ, even though I'm technically a part of it. I don't like it because it categorizes everybody who isn't quote unquote straight. Well, what the hell does straight even mean? And it creates like this view of like a minority. And I've noticed that another thing about it is that the LGB is one thing, lesbian, gay, bisexual, and the transgender and the queer are another thing. Queer used to be an insult, and as far as I'm concerned, it still is. I'm offended when I hear that word. And, it's just a word, as we all know, but my dad was called that word many times as a kid living in New York, and he knew that it was an insult. Everybody knew it was an insult. And they sort of like use it as an umbrella term now for all those things. But tell me how the hell gay and transgender are the same thing. They are not.
None of it's the same thing.
Well, yeah, but gay, lesbian, bisexual, I see that as one group, and I see the transgender as a completely different group.
But you're categorizing people. Our whole point was
fair,
don't categorize people.
Exactly. But if you absolutely have to, I don't see why they locked the transgender in there.
Well, I don't know. But point I make is, why identify with something that's not, that you have no control over, or you can't claim that you've accomplished,
Yeah.
I'm black. Well, so what, Did you accomplish black? No, you were just born black. Give
exactly.
your parents credit, I guess.
Yeah.
Or gay, or white.
Yeah.
or anything.
Exactly.
If you want something to feel good about, accomplish something and feel good about that.
Exactly.
Because that's
Don't-
you. You did that.
That is perfect. That is amazing what you just said. I've never even really thought about that. I mean, people say, "Oh, well, I'm an oppressed minority." Well, I mean, maybe you're oppressed for being a minority, maybe you're not, but still, it isn't something to brag about. It's something, if anything, to try and confront and if people are oppressing you, try and get them to stop, but or just go away, which is what I would do if I were in that situation. But I feel like making a big deal out of it, like we should almost, I don't know, like you should respect me more because I've been through more horror.
Yeah, you're saying of these other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, is by and large in this day and age, they haven't been through.
Exactly, and that's the whole idea. Like, our ancestors were harmed, so therefore you should pay us.
And that all white people did that harm, which is bullshit.
Exactly. Well, exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
and I mean, I've never met a black person who actually thought that they should get reparations. I mean, of course, there are probably many who do, but I think that's mostly white people talking about that.
Well, I know black people certainly do
Yeah.
talk about, but let's just say certain socialist communists.
Exactly.
They're all, the whole idea of any of that is that the government hands out money.
Yeah, which no, it doesn't.
Well, it hands out other people's money, doesn't
Yeah.
hand out its own money. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if I want more money, the first thing that crosses my mind, how am I going to earn it?
Yeah.
For some people, they want more money. The first thing that crosses their mind is which governmental department do they apply to?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I mean, I know, my mother put me on Social Security because I can't currently work, but I'm not going to live on Social Security for very long. We aren't abusing it or anything. I'm actively trying to do better so I can get a job. It's just a temporary solution. And I feel like stuff like that should exist, but it shouldn't be just so gratuitously handed out.
Yeah,
And people shouldn't be gratuitously applying for it either.
for sure. Yeah, I do think people just play the system any way they can get. So the more system there is, the more they can play it. Which is why I'm very much against all this expansive government, which is far bigger than just when I was your age. Just my lifetime. It's just gone,
Bureaucracies, all
gone
that.
crazy. Yeah.
The interesting thing is that I think if you asked your average middle schooler or elementary schooler in Portland, Oregon, if you ask them the question, do you think the government should be expansive or small? And they would all say different things. But if you ask them, are you left-leaning or right-leaning? They would all say left-leaning. Because they don't know what that means. They don't know that it means lots of government. They just know that it means all these social issues that they've been handed. And it's the same with people on the conservative side that age. They probably wouldn't know. Some would say yes, some would say no, because they'd have their own individual opinions. But if you ask them about something that they've been conditioned to think, they just, all they know about these so-called two different political agendas is that one of them is right and one of them is wrong. And that it's purely these social issues that it's about. It's really about how the government should work, how the economy should work, but they think that it's all about, and I'm careful to say they, because again, I'm falling into that same trap. Oh, they think this, they think that. But I'm saying a large majority of people who I've seen and witnessed and experienced and talked to, I believe, would think that these, as far as I'm concerned, manufactured, not all of them are manufactured, but a lot of them are social issues, are really what politics is about. And I think that's...
Yeah, I'm not going to say politics is wrong, but it can certainly be done wrong. And I think more often than not, it is done wrong. Politics should be more about cooperation than fighting with each other, because you're going to accomplish more. And I frequently use the example of building a building, because that's what I did for a living. I didn't build the building. I did the architectural woodwork that went into buildings. The plumber did the plumbing, the electrician did the electrical.
Framer did the framing.
Concrete guys did concrete, steel people did steel people, roofers did the roofing. And somehow all these different interests all working towards what they needed to do to get paid, you ended up with with
a beautiful building,
you know?
or a not beautiful
And if
building.
we all
but-
fought with each other, you'd end up with a mess.
Yeah.
But we worked cooperatively, even though we
Exactly.
each had our own interests.
And,
And you look at politicians, you say, what the hell are they thinking?
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah.
but I think constructing a building is a good analogy, but it's also far simpler than running a country.
Yes and no, because somebody owns that building. That somebody is top down. They're deciding
Yeah.
what architect they're going to
You're
hire.
right.
The hire is
Yeah,
private,
yeah.
depending on how they decide to do it. The architect is going to decide what general contractor. General contractor is going to put out bids for the subs,
Yeah.
subcontractors, and so there's a top down hierarchy there that is. What do I say? It's that's the way it is. So
Yeah.
me as the guy pretty close to the bottom, really, in my business.
Yeah.
I don't like that plumber. I'll get somebody else. It's not up to me.
Yeah.
You know.
But arguably, you were one of the most important people, even though you were at the bottom. Because, well, I mean, everybody needs to be there for it to not collapse, but not literally, figuratively, but actually literally too. But I think, honestly, because you did the finished work, the finished carpentry, that's what people experience inside a building.
Yeah.
So that's the most important part to me.
How it looks is largely up to me and some other people.
Yeah.
But whether the electricity works or not,
It needs
that's
to,
important.
It needs to be
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
And
Whether the faucets run hot and cold water, that's important.
yeah.
If the roof leaks, that's a problem.
Yeah.
It all matters.
It all matters, actually, yeah. Even though there is that hierarchy, I agree with you now. It's all important, probably
Yeah.
equally.
But somehow, I mean, we'd show up on a job site and find out who our cohorts were because you
Yeah.
didn't always know who the plumber,
Yeah.
electrician, anybody was going to be. But once you find out who they are, you say, okay, who do I need to interact with for me to do my job?
Yeah, for it to work.
And we make it work. And then you look at government, you say, these people are morons.
Well, because in a construction site, do you take that analogy further? People aren't saying, for the most part, if you're on a construction site, you aren't telling the plumber. If you're an electrician, you aren't telling the plumber. You're doing that wrong, and I hate you for it.
But you do tell them, you're running that right through where I need to run my stuff. That happens all the time. You
But-
work it out.
Yeah, but exactly, you work it out. And I mean, you weren't saying like, oh, the plumber, honestly, this would be a great idea for a political satire if it hadn't already been done. In fact, I'm sure it has been done. Political allegory, I guess. And I need to write that, or you need to write that because you know more about it than I do. But a job site where that functions like a dysfunctional government, and the building doesn't get built because people can't make it work.
Well, Animal Farm.
Animal farm, exactly.
There you go. It's already been written.
It's already been written.
Yep.
But that's specifically about communism.
Yeah, but you can expand that to just dysfunctional organization
Yeah.
as far as that goes. People at the top who don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I can see it rarely happened, but it's when out of all these people are involved in these jobs I've been talking about, from top to bottom, you get one person in there who's incompetent, they can make such a mess of
It
things.
causes the whole system to fall.
Not fall necessarily, sometimes, but yeah, it's just
And that would be-
occasionally I had incompetent project managers. They're like the boss of that job. They have to know what everybody's up to and keep
Yeah.
it coordinated. And if they don't, if they're not good at it, then you've got chaos.
Yeah.
And once again, I say I like what these two political parties are doing. People think this is new. It's not. The two parties have been at each other all the entire existence of this country.
Oh, really?
Under different names, because
Oh, yeah.
today's Republicans were the Whigs, more
That's
or
funny.
less. It's variation, but basically the Whigs evolved into the Republicans. Democrats had different names, but they've always been the Democrats. I mean, George Washington, and I've said this before, has had many people. George Washington back then said, "Watch out for political parties; they're going to mess this up."
Yeah.
Well, they've messed this up.
And yet,
you know?
still, everybody on both sides respects George Washington for the most part.
Yeah, it's funny because during the Civil War, you may or may not know, this vicious war that nobody really expected was going to happen.
Yeah.
It just kind of evolved out of the situation. But neither side, north or south, as they were moving troops around and having battles, none of them would go anywhere near Mount Vernon, I think, at Mount Vernon, and mess up anything to do with that house and that
That's
property,
interesting.
George Washington's place.
Because they respected it so
because they
much.
both
Yeah.
respected it. Yeah.
That's
So,
interesting.
yeah, yeah.
And what was I going to say? I was going to say, it's funny because I will admit that now that I'm thinking about it, I can't think of a single quote from Washington.
Oh,
And
good point.
I feel like, I mean, we all know Thomas Jefferson. We all know
okay. Give me
We
a
the
quote from-
people.
yeah.
I'm saying,
Well, yeah, the entire Declaration
Yeah,
of Independence. Yeah.
in the course of human events.
There you go.
Yeah.
Which is usually significant, which I talk about the Harriet Beecher Stowe House,
Yeah.
how people started thinking of themselves as, ready for this, individuals,
Yeah.
and not subjects of a king or queen.
Yeah.
And that's really where all that came from, the Declaration of Independence. It didn't just happen because some white guys decided they wanted to, have a revolution.
Yeah.
This was centuries in the making.
Yeah.
And the Declaration of Independence sits on top of a pile of other documents that started being written hundreds of years before.
And I believe that Sir Francis Bacon's book New Atlantis, that was a utopian work, actually influenced that a lot.
Could be. Yeah.
Now, granted, I haven't read New Atlantis yet, but I've read a lot of the plays and sonnets.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, people don't recognize how important Gutenberg was because
Yeah.
he made it possible for the word to get around.
yeah,
Just
exactly.
folks.
The press.
Yeah, it led to the press. And
And who knows if Shakespeare would have become so popular if there hadn't been a press?
yeah, well,
Just a century earlier, there was no press.
yeah. And so books were available, which meant people had a reason to learn to read because they
Yeah.
had books they could actually read. You got Martin Luther publishing the Bible in languages
Yeah.
other than Latin, so people could read
Actually,
the Bible,
and see what it said.
in their own language.
Yeah. Whoever thought of that?
Yeah, so more and more you had stripping of authority away from the kings and queens and popes
Yeah.
and
the
falling
tyrants.
into the laps or being taken control of by just folks.
Yeah.
Well, all of that going back to the 1600s, 1700s, that's the precursor to the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah.
People think it just kind of happened one day, and it's baloney.
Yeah. It was years in the making.
Yeah, and it's still happening, of course.
Yeah. I
But
mean, people are
I'm
constantly
afraid we're reverting back to
authoritarian.
Thank you. And people blame it all on Trump, but it predates him by a lot.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say he's the worst of it by any means. So, but yeah, a lot of people did and took a lot of effort to get this freedom that we now have, and now they're willingly giving it back up again. I think
Yeah.
people nuts.
Yeah.
So,
It's just I think people. Well, who are these people anyway?
yeah, those people. That's
yeah.
right.
Oh, people. I always say people this, people that.
Mm-hmm.
It drives myself crazy. But I think humans,
There
human
you go.
beings, Homo sapiens, tend to gravitate towards groups, and I think leaders
Yeah.
tend to take advantage of those groups. Because if you've got a leader saying, "Oh well, I can unite all of you against them," I think that it's how religions start too.
Religions get weaponized for sure.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess not.
Jesus was not
No,
not a, what am I saying, a totalitarian.
but
by
let me
any
tell you
means.
something. Jesus didn't invent Christianity. It was invented after him, interpreting his stuff and believing what happened to him. And
Yeah, I know what you're saying. As far as a formal religion, it came after him, but certainly he laid the groundwork for that religion. Yeah,
exactly.
but
And it's the same with Buddha. Buddha never wanted a religion to exist based on him. I mean, look at what I'm sorry to say, Japanese Buddhism has become. It is very different than what Buddha intended. I mean, they believe in especially Cambodia, that kind of Buddhism. They believe in 7 different hells all stacked on top of each other, all of which have different gruesome torture mechanisms for people who have committed different offenses. And I'm like, that's not what Buddha wanted. Buddha was live in peace and harmony with I don't even know what Buddha wanted. I'm making stuff up.
no, I know what you're saying. No, and I'm sure it is essentially true.
Yeah.
And Jesus the same.
Exactly. The Spanish Inquisition, I mean, did he want
Yeah.
that? No.
But that is what happens when, let's put it this way, that's what happens when a religion gets weaponized, and that's what happens when governments get weaponized. Because governments start off typically, we're just going to all join together to put it in pipes so we can have water or whatever. We're going to all grow our crops
Yeah.
together, whatever. We're going to transport it all to the market together or cooperate. At some point, if you don't watch out, you get a leader or two or three who say, hey, these people can all be
Used.
coalesced
Yeah.
together. They seek to be supervised and have decisions made for them and to be told
Yeah.
what they should be for and against and who the good guys are and the bad guys are. And they take advantage of it.
Yeah.
All these people who are so much for this and so much against that in this country or any other country, who are so sure they're right, I will guarantee you, it's not a thought that they have themselves. They are just following some leader
Yeah.
who is yanking their chain
Exactly.
and using them as their power base to get what they want.
I'm convinced that religious coercion is the same psychology as political coercion.
Yeah, and is there a difference? Because after all, the Catholic Church was the
It
government.
was the government. I mean, even kings were terrified of the Pope.
Well, for all intents and purposes, in some places and sometimes the Pope was the king. You know,
Yeah.
he was in charge. So
Vatican
yeah,
City
and
and all
Henry
that.
VIII, the conflict between he wants to be absolute ruler and the Pope saying no, I'm in charge.
That
and
was
then
why
they-
it was so significant when Henry VIII founded his own church, because before that, all kings had answered to the Pope, and he was like, I want to divorce.
Well, all Christian kings.
Yeah,
but not all
that's what I
kings,
mean.
yeah,
But all
yeah,
kings in Europe,
yeah.
and I mean, even though they were Protestants, there weren't really any Protestant kings before him, I don't think, and not that I know of, at least.
Yeah.
And Henry VIII wanted to divorce his wife, and the Pope said no. So he's like, "Okay, I'm creating the new church." And now people adhere to that church as if it were the word of God, which I think is, pardon me for saying this, so funny because it was literally created just because he wanted to divorce his wife.
Yeah. But then again, what authority does the Catholic Church have?
Yeah.
It just claims that it is the church that was built by Peter, which is the most direct thing to Jesus you
Yeah.
can get. So to that extent, they're right. But to the other extent this is not what Jesus wanted.
Yeah, no.
He didn't want one church that was in charge of everybody
Yeah.
and everything. So, yeah.
And I mean, I have a personal beef with the Catholic Church only because I'm interested in Freemasonry, and the Catholics have persecuted the Freemasons just as much as any other group they've persecuted in the past. Because, I mean, the Catholic Church handed over, I believe, names of Freemasons to Hitler, who was also against them. And that's where the flower of the forget-me-not comes from, because they were forced to wear it, just like the Star of David, which is really the Seal of Solomon. It didn't start being used widely in Judaism until the 19th century, when Judaism felt like it needed to latch onto a specific symbol to differentiate it from other religions that also had their specific symbols. So they picked the Seal of Solomon, which is actually the up pointing triangle and the bottom pointing triangle, which represents the divine duality of the world. And that might be a little bit too deep for now.
Yeah, we won't go too deep into that.
Yeah.
But yeah, religions have done a lot of good and they've done a lot of harm.
Exactly.
And of course, my attitude is when you give people at the top too much power and control that they have no right to anyway, it never goes well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we agree on that anyway.
We did agree on that, and I appreciate it.
So what do we have to do to fix the entire country?
That's an interesting question. Do you ask that to all your people?
Not necessarily, no.
Okay. Is there a specific reason you asked it to me?
Well, you're 19, going to be 19, and it's going to be up to you here shortly.
Well, partly. I don't plan to get into politics, but I guess if I was forced to, I don't know what I would do. I mean, I respect, I respect, and I also am very wary of most people who get into politics simply because, on the one hand, I respect them because they
One
want it.
little problem. My question
Yes.
is, what do you need to do to make things better? I didn't say anything about politics. You jumped right over to politics.
Oh, I get. Oh, that's a mistake I made. What do I need to do to make things
Well,
better?
no. What do we?
What do we?
What do Americans, considering there's 330 million of us and we're all different?
Yeah.
What do we need to do to make things better?
I think simply put, and this is going to sound very profound, even though I'm not expecting it to, and I don't want it to, because that would be weird. But I think we need to learn to work together, and I think that if we can just learn to, this is going to sound so cliche, but learn to put our differences aside, and which is so much easier said than done, of course. I think if we learn to, in theory, agree that there's always going to be people who think very differently than us, and I'm guilty of this too. I get angry at people for thinking differently than me, and I don't know if you do, but I mean, I think a lot of people get angry when others disagree with them, and I think if we learn to, as a society, learn that it's okay to think that certain things are right and certain things are wrong, and to some degree some of those things need to be enforced, but to another degree I think you need to just leave room for different opinions.
Yeah, and I'm going to just twist that a little and say leave room. Every person has a right to their opinion. You don't leave them room. You recognize that they have that
Exactly,
room.
that's fair.
You know,
It's just unfortunately now a lot of I think a lot of it does come down to leaving them room simply because they weren't left room for very long.
well, explain that.
Sorry, I didn't say that very well. That was not the best sentence I ever constructed. But I'm saying, if I can really think about it, that as of late, it seems to me like, sorry, I keep saying, it's probably driving you crazy.
I didn't notice until now.
Okay, so it's my belief that, why can't I even think? Now I'm so conscious of it. Do you want to be done and have this another time?
Nope.
Okay, let's keep talking.
Mm-hmm.
I like your direct answer. What was your question again?
Well, just you had said something I didn't entirely understand, and we were talking about working together or not working together, and everybody has their own right to their own way of doing things.
Yeah, and I was just saying that recently people sorry, I can't even form a sentence. I'm just so self-conscious. It's like this thing that happens to me every now and then.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay. Well, I'll see if I can pick up the ball and
Okay,
run
please.
with it, as they say.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I don't buy this we all need to get along stuff, because we don't, and we're not going to. So why pretend that we are or that we should?
That's a good idea.
I'm going to live my life, and other people are going to live their life. Every now and then I pop up and mention Colin Woodard's book that your mother, put me on to. All I have to do is think of the name of it. Nations, Colin Woodard, something Nations. Heaven forbid, I can't think
I've
of
heard
it.
that
But the
name.
point is, he says there's 11 different major cultures in the United States.
Yeah.
And that they've essentially always been that way, and they're essentially always going to be that way,
Yeah.
and they aren't going to coalesce. And the big question is, why should they? You know?
Yeah, well, I mean, I agree. I will have to rethink what I just said about getting along. I mean, I think they need to get along, but they don't necessarily need to, like, necessarily even respect each other or go.
Yeah, respect has to be earned. People forget
Yeah.
that. So I'm not going to say anybody has to be respected. But if anybody's earned any respect, it wouldn't hurt every now and then to say, yeah, okay, good for you.
It doesn't hurt. Yeah.
But also not respect them necessarily, but respect their
Respect
right.
their views. Yes.
Respect their right to what they want, same as you expect them to
Yeah.
respect your right to what you want. And yeah,
I would agree with
and
that.
People butt heads more now and again. It's not necessarily anybody's fault, and you have to work that out.
I mean, God knows we disagree on quite a few things,
Yeah,
but I mean, everybody disagrees on quite a few things. You said that you and my Nana disagree on quite a few things. Me and my mom disagree on quite a few things, and guess what? My mother and my father disagree on quite a few
And
things.
there you go. And that's all within one family. You've named maybe 5-6 people there.
And yet, we all.
Okay, you take 330 million people
Yeah.
that don't even know each other, and you think that they're all going to get along? Get real.
But the interesting thing is that we're all a family and we all respect each other because we're family and also because we like each other as people. But what you're saying is that a very large nationwide population is not going to do that.
They can't do that.
Yeah.
It's not possible. Even Thomas Jefferson, if I'm picking up on the right guy.
He was a smart guy.
He was a smart guy, and yes, he was a slave owner.
Yes.
But that's a whole other discussion concerning the fact
Yeah.
that what's he supposed to do about it? Because just freeing the slaves, that did not work out that well,
Exactly.
and he knew it wouldn't. But anyway, that's a separate conversation.
Yeah.
But Thomas Jefferson was, now I got to get my train of thought back. And I lost it. Hold on a minute.
You're doing the me thing.
Yeah, well,
You're doing
but
that.
again, talking about, oh yeah, I knew I'd get it back. He was saying, as this young country was forming, which with 13 regional states that used to be colonies, I tried to keep track of population numbers, and there's so many numbers I can't. But the entire United States of America, with the original 13 states, might have had 5 million people. That's half of New York.
I was just going to say
that's.
I was just going to say that's like half of New York.
Yeah, it's not a lot of people. He conjectured that if the United States grew, and he wanted it to grow, if it grew and populations increased, a central government wouldn't be suitable to try to govern all those people
Yeah.
for obvious reasons. He never wanted it to be like this, which is why he was also, even as he wanted the country to grow, he was for states' rights.
Yeah.
And that's not a proclamation that the federal government makes. It simply is a matter of fact. The states have the right
Yeah.
to run their state. And so you're not have one central government trying to run everything all at once.
It's like China or the USSR.
Which Washington, D.C. sucks at doing that. It's about
Yeah.
time everybody figured that out. It's
Yeah.
never going to straighten itself out, ever.
Yeah.
So just get over it and do something about it. Like yank the chain on the pull the plug on the federal government.
Yeah.
And we're shrinking down to the size that Jefferson anticipated. But China, yeah, it has top-down government, but no, it's not working effectively because of all
No.
these different people. It makes it look good because it's totalitarian. If you
Yeah.
speak against it, they kill you. Problem
Exactly.
solved, you know. But no, it's not working well. So, anyways, and I always try to find a chance to point out that the European Union is not the equivalent of the United States. The European Union is independent countries. France is not Germany, is not Italy,
Yeah.
is not Sweden. They are totally independent countries, just as we're supposed to be. Ohio is not California, it's not supposed to be, you know?
Yeah.
Or Oregon. It's not supposed to be.
Yet they call it one country, which is confusing.
And it is not. It is the Union. What does the word union mean?
United States
you
of
bring
America.
this group together, whatever that group is, and you create a union, but it's still individual, separate groups
Yeah.
as a union. It is not a totality.
And ideally, they should share some laws, but most laws they should have different based on what their populations vote for.
And I've said all this before, but I'll keep repeating it until people believe it. The states created the federal government.
Not the other way around.
Not the other way around. The states are supposed to be in control of the federal government, not the other way around. And if you look at the whole history of this and how it got to be this way, and two political parties that have screwed it all up, the only way it's ever going to halfway work is if we get back to the states being in control.
Yeah.
It does not mean Ohio's going to be like California.
It never will be, and it shouldn't be.
Nor should it be. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think ideally, because their border, they don't have really, I mean, you can just drive into one state from the other.
As you can now in the European Union.
Yeah.
Yeah. For Europeans,
Yeah.
they have total run of the European Union. You can go anywhere. They have one currency, basically, which they did. I've been there when they had liras and francs and all this. So they have one currency. There's good and bad in that. But they are independent countries with independent healthcare systems, independent educational systems. There was no National Department of Education in Europe. I mean, they have one, but it has no power. It has no ability to force Italy to be like Germany or anything else. And guess what? It works a whole lot better. Surprise, surprise.
But I was going to say the United States. Like I was starting to say, is you can drive from one state to the other. You don't have to show your passport or anything. Mm-hmm. You're an American citizen, and you're also a citizen of whatever state you belong to.
But that's kind of a new idea. That's what the 14th people forget about the 14th Amendment.
Remind me which one that was.
The birthright citizenship, they say, except your birthright is not really where you were born specifically. You can be born in a foreign country and still be born an American, and you can be born in this country and still not be an American. But the fundamental idea of birthright citizenship, well, of course it was created because here were all these slaves that were not citizens, and even after they were freed, they were still not citizens. So the Republican Party basically
Yeah.
decided to make them all citizens. But until then, the federal government didn't have much say-so on who's a citizen.
Yeah.
You were a citizen of a state.
Yes.
And if you were a citizen of that state first, then by extension,
Yeah.
you were a citizen of the United States.
Yeah.
But first and foremost, you were a citizen of that state. Well, the 14th Amendment turned that around and gave the federal government all kinds of power to say, we'll decide what a citizen
Yeah.
is. You're a citizen of the United States. And oh, by the way, if you live in Ohio, well, then that makes you a
So it's
citizen
the opposite of
Ohio.
how it used to be.
Totally turned it around with one amendment.
That's weird.
And people do complain about the Republican Party in the Civil War. They did free the slaves, so let's give credit where it's due.
Yeah.
I'm glad they did. But they took a lot of power. They decimated the Democratic Party, which is fighting to keep slavery, decimated to the point where they had essentially no power in Congress.
Yeah.
And man, they ran roughshod and gave themselves all kinds of power, gave the
Yeah.
federal government all kinds of power. And they aren't the only ones that ever did it in our history, but they did a pretty decent job of it right then of creating
Yeah.
problems that we're looking at right now today. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting that people talk about like a party shift. I don't see that there's really ever been a party shift. I think it's just been a shift in power. It hasn't been so much of like the actual ideals changing as much as it's been like, I mean, a president comes from this party, a president comes from that party. It's interesting that there hasn't been a period of more than like 20 years, has it been in the United States, where there has been only where there's been a president of a specific party in office. I mean, it always goes back and forth, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
And I think that the United States is not built so that one party could gain control in terms of which president they have for longer than like a period of 20 or 10 years.
Well, again, understand according to the Constitution, we don't have political parties. So
Yeah.
there we go. But
And it helps that a president can't serve for more than 8 years. But
that's a big one after Franklin Roosevelt.
Yeah.
Okay, enough of that BS.
Yeah.
8 years. I'm fine with term limits in Congress. It's good and bad both ways. But
term limits, that's the word.
what?
Term limits, that's the word.
Didn't know what I said.
That is what you said, but
Yeah,
I'm saying
I
I
did.
didn't say it because I forgot what
yeah, term limits.
Yeah.
But the main thing is the federal government is just too powerful. I don't care how long a term is or what party's in charge of
Yeah.
it. It shouldn't be like that, period. It shouldn't be that powerful. And that's the biggest problem. So again, I was going somewhere with that, and I lost track of it.
But were you done?
So I just lost track
yeah.
of where I was going with that.
I was going to say, in terms of states having their own individual governments, I think that that's a wonderful idea, and I think
Well, and they do.
they do. But I'm saying, and I'm going to say again, people, but who are these people? Some of us, I think, don't really understand just how monumental that is. That states have their own individual governments, their own right to make laws. And I think you can move to whatever state you want to live in the United States. You don't have to show your passport. You don't have to really get over a border. I mean, you have to get a driver's license in the new state, and you have to pay taxes to the new state. But other than that, I mean, it's pretty easy to just go wherever you want in our country to.
Yeah, but there's the disadvantage that that's made possible by a central government that's way too powerful.
Yeah.
And going back to the Constitution, still back in 1789, we'll pick a date, 1789, you could go to any of those states and they couldn't keep you out.
Yeah.
If you were a citizen of another state. They
Yeah.
have that reciprocity.
Yeah.
A citizen of one state could go to another state freely.
Yeah.
That did not mean anybody could come from anywhere else and do the same.
Well, yeah.
But so what you're talking about now has existed in all time for the existence of this country, even before the federal government had very much power
Yeah.
at all. So
Isn't that contradicting what you just said?
it does. Except that I think now with the federal government overseeing it and knows where everybody is and what they're doing, it gets a little too top heavy, I guess.
Problematic.
So, yeah. And I was thinking, as I said all of this, that well, what about France and Germany? How easily can they go? Well, a Frenchman can go straight into Germany.
Yeah.
Or Germany into France. That's a fact. Can they live there? Can they work there? I'm not sure what the rules are.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I presume they can.
Yeah,
So,
it's interesting.
so. But yeah, that was one of the rules of the Constitution, is there can be no tariffs between states.
Oh yes,
With very rare exceptions for very good reasons.
I didn't know there were any exceptions. What are they?
For California, it has laws about what fruit you can bring into California.
Oh, I get it. Yeah,
because it carries disease.
Yeah,
and
I get that.
So if you have a really good reason for
You
it,
can like
can go-
petition it.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And yeah, I don't know. Theoretically, you don't need the federal government's permission to do it. You just say we're doing this
interesting.
because here's this really good reason, and if it's a good reason, you'll get away with it.
So all
most
you have to
likely,
do
yeah.
is go into the state house and make it happen.
Well, yeah. I mean, California had to pass a law.
Yeah.
But then Colorado or Nevada says no, you can't do that.
Then it goes to the federal government, doesn't
Then
it?
it goes.
Yeah.
Then it goes to federal courts, not to Congress.
Oh
Congress,
yeah.
Congress can do its own thing and override all of it and say, well, we just made a law
Yeah.
that states can do that. Or then Congress can stay the hell out of it, and the courts will make decisions relative to
Yeah.
that. So yeah.
And that would be by federal court. Do you mean the Supreme Court or no?
Well, that's the ultimate federal
Yeah,
court.
I mean,
Yeah,
there
there's
are
all the
others,
lower
yeah.
courts. Yeah.
Because the Supreme Court is literally when it comes into the Constitution.
Well, it's supposed to decide constitutional issues.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which
That's the point of
again, the people question how well it does that.
Well, I mean, ultimately, it's all just people interpreting the law and the
You got it.
Constitution.
Yeah.
And I mean, the federal government, the Supreme Court. I mean, if there's a law that was made in like 1790 or something, the Supreme Court is going to look very different than it looked when that law was made.
Well, as they say, the law is the law. If it's on the books, it counts.
Yeah.
So no,
But
you
you can
can't
also-
just say, "Well, that's such an old law; it doesn't matter
Yeah.
anymore."
But I mean, what are amendments anyway?
Well, amendments aren't laws. Amendments are part of the Constitution.
But they allow for laws to be made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they restrict laws,
Yeah.
You can't, like say, somebody wants to proclaim they're a citizen, and Congress can't pass a law and say, no, you aren't.
Yeah.
If you are a citizen under the 14th Amendment,
Yeah.
you're a citizen. And Congress can't say different. So that's, laws have to be observant of the Constitution. Yeah.
And what I find interesting is I know how our government works, but I've never really thought about how other governments work. I mean, I know there are different types of government. There's socialism, there's communism, there's this, there's that. But I mean, take for instance England. I know they have a parliament with two houses, and I know that. But I don't really know beyond that. I know the Queen does, or the King, I guess now, doesn't really have much power in terms of it. It's more like for lack of a better word, a figurehead. But everybody knows that they're a figurehead, so they really aren't.
Yeah, a figurehead with apparently there's the formality of the Prime Minister supposed to report to the King.
Yeah.
And so forth and so on. And I think there's influence there. If the king wants things to be changed, to some extent he can influence it. But the prime minister actually is more powerful than the king. Yeah.
But I was going to say, in terms of a government like that, excuse me, do they have, I mean, they have the Magna Carta. Is that like their constitution or something?
A little bit. I'm not an expert on the Magna Carta, but it does proclaim that it goes back to what we started with, is that the people, and again, Age of Enlightenment, all the stuff we were from Gutenberg, all of the stuff we've been talking about, it says, this predates all of that, it says that the people have, and when they say the people, in this case, they're more talking about the lower level aristocrats, not the king. As far as the serfs and the peasants, they didn't get around to worrying about that too much, somewhat.
Yeah.
But it says that the king is not all powerful.
Yeah, which was a big step forward.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's interesting that most other European, if you're going to consider England Europe, most other European countries did not really get to that point until long after the Magna Carta.
Yeah, I mean, it's all been touchy-feely. Keep in mind that Europe today, even in the 1800s, was very different.
Yeah,
there was no Italy as we think of Italy,
no
Germany as we think of Germany. Lots of things were very different.
What's interesting is that it had been different, but it had been different in the same way for many, many years before all the revolutions and all the World War I, World War II, and all that, hadn't it? I mean, I'm saying like borders hadn't really changed in Europe for hundreds of years until then, right?
Oh, well, I don't know if I'd say that. No. But you're right, the two world wars, at the end of each one, these committees would get together and invent new countries and change borders around, and to some extent it was helpful, and to some extent they just caused more wars. So,
well, I mean, World War One was the aftermath of World War One was the reason for World War Two, as far as I understand.
I would say a lot of people say World War Two is just the final chapter of World War One. So and maybe that was the final chapter, because then you had the Korean War, you had the Vietnam War. You had all kinds of things going on, especially in Eastern Europe. Was the Soviet Union after World War II tried to take over as much of Europe as it could, but the Allies were coming from the other direction. Well, they were allies. The United States and Britain were coming from the other direction, trying to stop the Soviet Union, and that's how you ended up basically with the Iron Curtain and all that. And the Cold War. That's how the Cold War. So the Cold War was a development of World War II. Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, the Cold War wasn't really a war, because neither side was really planning to launch nukes.
No war's a war until it happens.
Yeah.
You know, World War I, people knew something was coming. You don't know until it happens. World War II, you know, they tried to capitulate to Hitler and say, oh, okay, you go ahead and you just go marching into Czechoslovakia and we'll pretend we
didn't notice. Go marching into France and we don't notice.
Yeah, and, you know, so none of these things anybody sees coming ahead of time.
Yeah.
And the Cold War, it was always was a possibility of a nuclear war from that. People were very afraid of that.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I didn't realize it extended on to when my mom was a kid, but she said that she was definitely afraid of it. I thought it was really only the boomer generation that was afraid of it.
Maybe we were less afraid because we didn't too young to realize the ramifications, maybe. So here's this bomb just went off. But those two bombs went off 3 years before I was born.
Oh, I always forgot it was that soon before you were born.
Yeah, so by the time I was 10 and hiding under a desk according to instructions.
Duck and cover.
Okay, you want me under the desk? I'll get under the desk. I don't care. But, you know, I had no sense of danger.
And of course, the duck and cover thing was just propaganda to get people...
no, any bombing, that's what they tell you, and it's right, you know.
It's really right?
Sure, if buildings are caving in... Get under something that's going to protect you if you're in that building.
I mean, fallout isn't going to...
There's ways to protect yourself from fallout, too. But being under your desk isn't going to do it. But some radiation fallout, you can protect yourself by wearing a dust mask.
I guess you're... Oh, really?
Yeah. Some of us just don't inhale it. That's all. Some of it.
There's an animated movie, The Iron Giant. You might have heard of it. That takes place during the Cold War, and it's like a kids movie, but it's very sophisticated. And it takes place during the 1950s in, like, I think a town in Maine or New Hampshire or something like that. And the plot of the movie has nothing to do with this, but there's a really funny scene in it where this kid is at school and they're showing an educational film on how to survive a nuclear attack, and there's of course a little jingle going duck and cover, and it shows this kid who like gets down on his knees underneath the desk, and the bomb drops on the skull, and it makes an entire circle around the desk, and then in the very center is this island that's coming up with the kid around the desk, and he says, "I ducked and covered."
There are those. Yeah, I get that.
It was funny.
But you know, if you don't really know what's coming for sure, and one person's not under a desk and the other person is, my bet is on the guy under the desk. You know, they might both get killed or they might both survive. But if somebody's going to die, there's probably going to be the person that wasn't under the desk. So
my mom said she first saw the movie Dr. Strangelove when she was like 12 or something, and she said it really scared her. I can imagine that movie scaring her.
I guess. Now, you see, I was older when I watched it, and it was like, yeah, okay, that's funny, but you know,
I think it's genius, and
and it's just it is a comedy, it's a satire or whatever you want to call it. But because they had if you heard of the movie Failsafe.
Oh, I've heard of that. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's where Dr. Strangelove came from. Failsafe was a very serious movie about a bomber inadvertently being sent to Moscow, an American bomber, to nuke it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they're all prepared to do this. They still are today.
That sounds similar. That's like the
and the idea Angel. There's planes flying around with nuclear bombs right now, I'm sure. But they do these exercises to be, all ready and know what to do when the time comes. And they have these codes, and so in Failsafe, the code was sent to these people in this bomber to bomb Moscow, and it was a screw up, And before...
That's just like in Strangelove, where the
Well,
radio
yeah,
breaks.
Yeah, and the point is, it can't be called back, because what good is it? If the Russians could interpret that code and call the plane back, give them a false code. So once they get that code, it can't be called back. So they're headed for Moscow, and that's what that movie's about. And it's a gruesome movie, for sure. Well, then there's Dr. Strangelove is kind of a parody of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Makes fun of it. But,
in fear.
So.
It's the funniest scene in any movie. I when I first decided I was going to write a novel in like 7th grade, I experimented with several ideas, and one of my ideas was a novel that is like a sort of a satire about like the school system in my city, and there was supposed to be a character named Madeline Strangelove, and it says in a brief passage that she her father worked in the Pentagon, and she was kind of like quietly respected by everyone for it, but she called the principal of the school Mein Führer when she was addressing him. So yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, there were people knew that there were a lot of Germans. People have been involved in the...
Well, there was Operation Paperclip, as they called it.
Okay. Is that a real one? Because I don't know that.
You haven't heard of Operation Paperclip?
I don't think so, no.
As my dad explained it to me, it was the idea that if you're a Nazi and you survive the war, the U.S. government comes to you and says, "Hey, you're an ex-Nazi. We won't prosecute you if you come to work for us."
Well, that's true. That's Werner von Braun and so forth.
That was the name of it.
Yeah. But yeah, that was, I think, part of the joke you were getting at there with Dr. Strangelove, is they were Nazis.
Yeah. They were very much Nazis.
Who after World War II, they just kind of cleaned up the paperwork a bit. Now they were working for the American government. Yeah, so for sure. And in Argentina, there's a whole group of Nazis, got together down there.
Yeah.
So yeah, these jokes about people going, Mein Führer, at whatever school you're talking about there. Yeah, I mean, that's a joke about you'll find Nazis anywhere.
And exactly.
There's a little bit of truth there, yeah. So.
And there's the question, like, what even is a Nazi? I mean, what even is anybody? But, nowadays, everybody's accusing everyone of being a fascist, not a Nazi.
Mm-hmm.
And it confuses me, because fascism started in ancient Rome, and it was revived by Mussolini in Italy, but Hitler was never a fascist. He was a Nazi, wasn't he?
Well, Nazi's the name of the party.
Yeah, but
well, fascism is what? Let's define our terms.
Yeah, okay.
Well...
Oh, you're asking me?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's a kind of government where there's a strong leader who is very in control of everything, as far as I understand. And it's a very militaristic society. And is there anything I missed?
Well, that's the idea, but you forgot the economic part.
The economic part, yes.
It is like communism without even a pretense that the people count for anything. It's top down. Yeah. It's top down. You will work where and how and get paid what we tell you.
Yes.
And of course, you have a strong military to make sure that anybody that gets out of line gets retrained. Shall we say?
Yeah. So those are the three parts.
So it's absolute totalitarianism.
Yeah.
That's fascism.
Yeah.
So whatever that proves. But
Oh, sorry.
Well, as far as are we fascists in this country? Is anybody a fascist? And again, as anti-central government as I am, I say there's a hell of a lot of fascists there in Washington.
Yeah.
I don't think you pick a party or even a particular person. There's just a hell of a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
And we should fight against it.
And I think, I've heard people say in where I'm from that Nazism is a kind of fascism.
Well, look at Hitler. He was, if you called him a fascist, I wouldn't disagree.
Yeah.
I mean, if he was not, he was so damn close to it, why make a distinction?
I guess you're right. It's just, it's interesting the way they use the terms.
Now, the party was called, your mother knows this because she speaks German, but their actual name in German said socialist, something or other.
Well, Nazism is National Socialism.
Yeah, but whatever the name of the party was, it said socialist. But the question was it socialist? And I would say no. But it's a good word to use. You want to get votes, you name your party the Socialist Party.
Yeah, and also using the flag that has the red with the black shape on the background. That's very, or the gold or whatever. That's very drawing from the socialists and having the very charismatic leader. I mean, Hitler wasn't exactly charismatic. He shouted a lot.
Oh, he was charismatic to some people.
Yeah.
He drew a crowd.
He did. Yeah. I mean, charisma can mean a lot of things. I wouldn't find a person who shouts constantly necessarily charismatic. But Hitler, well, then again, look at Trump. I mean, I don't really want to get into this, but he's charismatic. He shouts.
Well, I don't want to pick a fight over that, but no, he doesn't shout. He's very, he picks a fight,
Yeah.
but he doesn't shout. He loves to pick a fight.
Yeah. He's an interesting guy. I mean, I don't really know him enough about him to really think he's evil or he's amazing or whatever, but I mean, he's always interested me.
Well, I've come to a conclusion that I didn't start out with this because I didn't know what to think of him. I knew what I thought of Hillary. We don't need to get into that too much. I didn't know what to think of him, except he was a very successful businessman. But
Exactly.
the more I see him operate, the more I respect him.
Yeah.
He knows what the hell he's doing. He's just what the federal government needs, because we have all these bureaucrats. They got all their little fiefdoms going on and struggling for power within themselves and so forth. And the ability of that to deal with the world sucks.
Yeah.
And along comes Trump and says, okay, now we're going to do it my way. Well, of course, those fiefdoms didn't want to hear that at all. They would do anything to stop
There's
him.
a lot about him that I do respect, and I don't, like I said, I don't know very much about him. I don't really follow him because I honestly don't care. But
well, you need to care. And
care.
I'm not telling you what side to pick. You need to understand.
I understand. Well, I don't understand, but I try to understand. And I mean, he's said and done some things that I really agree with, I have to say. Now, I didn't vote for him because there are a couple issues I very much don't agree with him on, but we don't need to get into that now.
Okay.
But I think that a lot of what he's done is and I know that I'm making a big risk saying this in public, but I think a lot of what he's done is actually pretty good.
Well, I think it's a life-changing event for me, I guess. I've known every president technically since Eisenhower, although I was a kid at the time, and I certainly know JFK, and I know where I was when I heard he'd been assassinated, and I've known every president since then, and I've seen it go this way and that way and around and about and whatever. I've never seen anything like Donald Trump.
He's just a wild card.
But he's not a wild card. He knows what the hell he's doing.
Yeah.
The difference with him is he is the only true businessman as president. You can say Jimmy Carter, but that's just pretend. He was no businessman. A real true businessman running the federal government who has no patience for bureaucratic BS and he struggles for supremacy that happens in every government, and pushing and shoving, people trying to grab their own
willing to fight
power
for what
and build their own fiefdom, so forth, yada yada yada. And it's gone on under every president since I've been alive and back beyond that. And along comes Trump and says, we're not doing it that way.
Yeah.
Whoa. And of course people are pissed at him. All the people who rely on the largesse of government, who see the government as their means by accomplishing what they want. Along comes this guy and just kicks holes in it.
Yeah.
Of course they hate him. Doesn't bother me a bit that they hate him. It tells me something about Trump that they hate him. And they spent 10 years trying to destroy him, and all they've done is make them stronger, make themselves weaker. What does that tell you?
What
does that tell you about who knows what the hell they're doing?
Yeah.
What does it tell you about who really has the power?
Exactly.
Who does it tell you about? What does it tell
you're
you about?
asking me?
No, I'm
being,
what do you call it? Rhetorical.
Yeah.
What does it tell you about who this country really wants to see running things and how they want to see it run?
Exactly.
So you got the media doing all they can to convince people that everybody hates Trump. It was never the case.
It's a complete character assassination.
Absolutely.
And I've never seen another in any... Well, I mean, it kind of happened to Sir Francis Bacon, but I don't want to get into that when he was Lord Chancellor of England. But, a lot of... Throughout history, I haven't seen many cases that I'm aware of. And, I don't know a lot about history compared to you or my dad, but I haven't seen many cases of one political entity actually deciding that they can destroy another political entity just by convincing everybody that they're wrong.
That goes on all the time.
Oh, it does?
Oh, hell yes.
Okay, well, tell me some examples.
Well, of course, you've got Trump. if you go into other countries, and I can barely keep up with all these countries, but in the Philippines, all the stuff going on with Marcos, it goes back a ways, arresting each other. You try to get enough power that you can arrest more of their guys than they can arrest of yours.
Yeah.
It goes on all the friggin' time.
Somehow I wasn't aware of that.
Russian Revolution.
Well, I guess you're right. I mean, the famous case of that is the Rasputin thing with like.
And the thing is the Russian Revolution was violent. So we expect a revolution to be violent. Our own revolution was violent, but most coups, most taking over of governments happen internally, and people are just going around minding their own business and don't even know what happened.
Yeah, I mean,
because all the same players are there. Yeah. It's just that there's these guys and there's those guys, and they're trying to outmaneuver each other and gain more power. And if one of them manages to get the other guys thrown in jail or at least depowered to the point that they can take control, well, guess what? You've just had a coup, and nobody even knows it.
And I mean, a coup is different than a revolution. I mean, in some ways.
Yeah, we presume, I think, that a revolution involves violence and the people, and I guess that's true enough.
Did you know that the first Russian Revolution that happened just a couple of months before the Bolsheviks took power was actually a peaceful one?
Yeah, sort of. I'm not thoroughly familiar, but I do know that there was...
what was his name? There was a gentleman who lived in Russia who got a bunch of people together, and he actually wanted to make a democracy. Mm-hmm. And he peacefully deposed the king, the czar, but I mean, I'm saying that because not many people know the word czar. Yeah. But he peacefully deposed the czar. That he even got the czar to sign things and agree that he was no longer in charge. Yeah. And he and his people, what was this guy's name? I can't remember. But he actually he got most of the Russian people united together, and he didn't unite them against anyone. He united them to achieve a common goal. Yeah. And it wasn't like, oh, the Tsar is evil. It wasn't like we need to destroy whatever version of capitalism they had. It was more like we just they took the United States as a model, actually, and they're like, we want to be a country like that. And then Lenin, he comes in. He's actually sent by Germany to create, to get the Russians riled up about their own thing against their own people, and so that Germany can continue to fight its war, and not have Russia as a factor to contend with. And Lenin immediately gets all these peasants who know virtually nothing about the world,
and college students,
and he tells
who know virtually nothing.
And he tells them, oh well, you're going to be living in the palaces of the rich. There's going to be a palace for every one of you, every single one of you. And these peasants, in college students, I mean, they dream big, but they know very little. And they, it was actually mostly the peasants, though. I mean, the number of people who went to college were very little. I mean, my dad's told me all about this. Yeah. And he tells them to essentially go into all the wealthy houses that they know and that they've seen, and just kill the people, burn the houses down, steal all the furniture and the valuable things and everything that they want. And he just started this he crept in with this violent revolution that just kind of happened out of nowhere because he got all these people riled up and excited, and that's how it started.
Because we started off, as far as this part of it, talking about how governments get taken over. You know, these people in charge, and all of a sudden these other people in charge. How did that happen? But it tends to happen from the inside. Venezuela, Cuba.
Yes.
I mean, and Castro's just
famous then.
Were associated with, they didn't come out of nowhere. Took over from Batista.
Teresa.
I'm trying to think of others. Thailand's going through it right now.
Yes, I heard about that. I don't know much about that.
Yeah. Well, they're doing the usual. They have these courts. It's amazing what courts can get away with. They say, well, this person is corrupt, so they can't serve in office, so they're barred from serving. Well, excuse me.
Yeah, exactly.
So now this other guy who controls the courts, he can run for election, and the other guy who could beat him can't run because he's been barred by this court this other guy controls. And it's so freaking transparent. You can see it. You can watch it happen, and people go, "Oh, okay."
And then again, that's why they were trying to put Trump in prison. So
yeah, absolutely. Anybody thinks that was about the judicial system doing its job? It was about politics, 110% the whole way. And how many people in America still don't know that?
Yeah.
You know?
And it's unfortunate because some of the best people that I know, actually on both sides, on both extremes, really, well, not so much on the conservative extreme, because I don't know a lot of people who aren't like middle of the road like you, who people on the left would consider conservative. I think most of the so-called conservatives that I know are like not really all that conservative, all things considered.
Again, you have to define your terms.
Yeah,
what's a conservative?
Define it exactly. I mean, when I use the word conservative, I mean what the so-called left, the people who I know and interact with in Portland, consider to be a conservative. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying I've like met virtually none of those people. Mm-hmm. And then what was I even saying? I was saying, what was the question originally?
I don't know where we are.
I don't know where we are. When I really think about it, I can't talk. I can't continue to talk.
Well, we were talking about basically political parties taking control of governments.
And I know what we were talking about. We're talking about the character assassination and the attempt to incriminate Trump. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I don't really want to get into that because I'm not super thrilled to have my political opinions posted online, but we might as well talk a little bit about it. I just think it's absurd. I really do. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of people. This is what I was saying. I know a lot of people who I'm very close to, friends, family, whatnot, who honestly believe that Trump should be rotting in prison. Mm-hmm. And I just find it really interesting that half of them probably don't even know that I think differently. And I'm not even saying I like Trump. I'm just saying, why should he be rotting in prison? What the hell has he done? Mm-hmm. I'm someone who thinks very few people should be rotting in prison, if that tells you anything. And I'm more for the restorative justice route, which mm-hmm. I know is a joke for a lot of people, but I think. I don't. As far as I know, he hasn't really done anything that would make it necessary to try him.
No, nothing in particular. Certainly nothing more than a lot of other people in Washington who've gotten away with a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's. And
funny. I look at it this way: they have spent God knows how many tens of millions of dollars to try to get Trump. Any way they can. They've done investigation on top of investigation, made up documents that don't really count for anything, on and on and on. And you think of how little they've gotten on him.
Yeah.
I imagine most of the higher level politicians in this country, in state government or federal government, if you investigated them like they've investigated Trump, you would find
more
things. Yeah. Oh, not just more, all kinds of stuff. Stories. Near as I can tell, Trump is one of the cleanest people at high levels of government anywhere in this country that we've ever seen any time in the last 50 years. He is that clean. They've had to invent things to charge him with. So,
and the terms are always very obscure, like, he's... I'm
sorry, I just had a thought I wanted to add to that.
Please.
So then the question is why? And I think it's because he's been in business his whole life. I was in business my whole life. You don't get away with much and people don't know about it. People are too smart and paying too much attention. You do not get away with very much. Not that I ever tried, but if I tried, I wouldn't get away with very much.
Yeah.
Because people are too smart and paying too much attention, and it's their money.
Yeah.
It's not somebody else's money, it's their money.
Yeah.
And they're watching.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying there's no fraud, no funny stuff going on in business, but it's a hell of a lot cleaner than politics.
Yeah.
So in that regard, it's not so surprising that Trump is as clean as he is in a very, very dirty city.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry I interrupted you, but I thought I'd get that in there.
It's good that you got that in there because that's really something for me to think about. Mm-hmm. I've never really thought much about it myself, but. He never struck me as someone who was especially, like, as you say, dirty. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I need to investigate myself, but it's funny because I've met so many people who've said, oh, he's in power because he wants money. I'm like, excuse me, he's not accepting a salary as president.
Yeah.
As far as I know, he hasn't changed that.
He's putting in a $200 million ballroom at the White House.
I just noticed that.
Yeah, with largely his money and other private sector money. He's not using any taxpayer money.
Yeah. And speaking of that ballroom, I think it's gorgeous. Actually, I saw a picture of it, and I think
for $200 million, it better be. I don't know what kind of ballroom you get for $200 million.
I was going to say, for most people, I'll stop saying for most people. That's the most absurd thing I've ever said. But I think a lot of people who dislike Trump would immediately say, that ballroom is so ugly. And I think they would dislike it just because they don't like him. I don't think they would view it from an architectural standpoint. I mean, in terms of classical, it combines Beaux-Arts and Georgian influences like perfectly. Whoever thought that you could still do that looking at the, pardon my French, shit that's being built out there?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm...
Right next to our university, paid for by a university who prides itself in great architectural whatever, who tells us it's a good neighbor and then creates that crap and runs us out of our own neighborhood. But that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I have studied classical architecture as much as any 18-year-old, soon to be 19-year-old, could study it, and I mean, I've learned a lot about it, and I heard someone talk about the crown molding in the Oval Office. He added something decorative to it, and this was a published article by like an architectural review. And I'm like, first of all, define crown molding. You've got your entablature. An entablature is 3 parts, kids. It's an architrave, a frieze, and a cornice. And the crown molding only makes the part of the cornice known as the cimation. Crown molding is literally a layman's term. And it confused me when I was younger, not to get too much into this, but confused me when I learned about the 2 parts of the 2 upper parts of the cornice, the corona and the cimation. I always thought that corona meant crown, as in crown molding, but it's actually the part underneath the cimation, which is what most people would refer to as the crown molding. It's the flat part, the long fillet underneath the crown that sticks out. And I don't know how they came up with the term crown molding, because corona refers to the top bit, because the cimation is actually mounted on the corona. So the corona is the whole top bit, and the cimation is just a decorative part at the top. But that's me nerding out for no apparent reason. But I just on it's so funny, because if you look at architecture today, I mean, there's a gentleman in Texas named Brent Hull, who you might have heard of. He does architectural millwork just like you do, and he is a classicist, and he knows everything there is to know about classical architecture. I know nothing compared to him. And trust me, most people know nothing compared to me, and I'm not even being arrogant or bragging. I'm just saying it's a fact.
I think people listening would grant you that, yeah.
And but I mean, I've studied it, and I've still got a whole lot more to learn. Trust me, I'm not saying, oh, I'm an expert. I mean, I've still got quite a bit to learn. But at least I know that, and I know I would not attempt. And this is saying something. I see all these McMansions with like Corinthian and composite columns that are like so badly proportioned. I can, from memory, confidently draw the Tuscan order to proportion. I cannot draw the Doric order, or the Ionic order, or the Corinthian order, or the composite order, matching any proportions. I don't feel confident enough doing it. I could do it if I had a reference, but I stay out of that territory because it's so complex. And I'm like, hell, I'm closer to an expert than any of you are out there, and I don't feel confident approaching the higher orders. Now you are just slapping these things on there, and you know nothing, and you don't even know that there are rules, and it infuriates me. But I mean, they have the right to do it; it's their building. But I was at an architectural, like, for lack of a better word, a gala at the Architectural Heritage Center not so long ago. There was food, there was wine. Of course, I didn't drink wine because I'm not old enough, but I ate a little bit of food. Actually, I didn't because of the nut allergy that I have. But so I was just standing there. I had nothing to do. I was drinking a cup of water, and I approached several different people, and I would say, "Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, ma'am. Are you an architect?" And they would say to me, "Oh, yes, I am an architect. Why do you ask?" And I say, "Name the 5 classical orders." They're like, Dorian, what's it called? Ionian, maybe? What's the fancy one with the leaves? And I'm give me a break. And one of them was evidently on the team of architects who designed the remodel of the Portland airport that was just done. Now, granted, an airport doesn't need to be a classical building, but it was so bizarre. It was very bizarre.
I believe it.
And I later talked to Norm Golston, who's an amazing person, who's the programs manager at the AHC, the Architectural Heritage Center, and he said, I give the same test to people who wander in, and if they answer correctly, I give them 2 free walking tours of Portland. The walking tours that the center offers are usually like $50 or $40 per like group. But anyway, yeah, that's my spiel.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, why should everybody know anything about architecture? But architects should know
They
something
should
about
know something about
architecture.
architecture.
Yeah.
And I mean, and the funny thing is, I'm not an architect. I don't really understand how the mechanics of a building work.
A lot of architects don't, and they'll tell you that because they have engineers to do the engineering, so they do the design.
Yeah.
Their job is to make sure the room is big enough for the number of people they anticipate and so forth, which is important. But yeah, they should know the aesthetics, and boy, from a lot of what I see, they don't.
And pretty much everybody thinks that Frank Lloyd Wright was the greatest architect who ever lived. He's certainly the most famous who ever lived. But I've seen some of his early buildings. We were talking about Louis Sullivan the other day. He worked for Louis Sullivan in his firm in Chicago. And Sullivan actually kicked Wright out of the firm because he designed a house by himself and took credit for it without working under the firm's name. And Frank Lloyd Wright continued, if I get the story correct, I might be getting some of the details wrong, but Wright, during his early career, he designed a number of buildings in classical styles. And these buildings were, they were not great, let's say. He would place a column clumsily in the center of a facade. He would have a really small entablature over a really giant column. He would make all sorts of mistakes, and he just wasn't into classicism, so he didn't do it well. But then when he got into the Prairie School, he excelled. He was amazing at designing Prairie School buildings, and later on his organic architecture and Usonian architecture. But that shows that not every architect needs to be a classicist. But if you're trying to...
You should know it, though. You should know it.
Yeah, exactly. If you're trying... Yeah. Classicism is the very basis for Western architecture, and you have to have an understanding of what it is. You have to know what a column is, an entablature, entasis, all of that. And I think you did a pretty fine job with this house without knowing what entasis was. I was surprised you didn't. But then again, you're not an architect, you're an architectural woodworker. I think, honestly, Palladio and Vignola, and to some extent Scamozzi, and Michelangelo, of course, he was a great architect, but these are all Italian Renaissance era names, and they were masters of classicism, and they would faint if they saw these McMansions with the oversized columns. And I think the reason these McMansions are being built is because a lot of people who grew up in relative poverty have succeeded because of their intellect and their will to succeed. They've gotten a lot of money, but they don't exactly know what people have traditionally considered to be taste. And I think they're like, oh, I want fancy columns here, put these columns there. I don't know the difference between order or style or anything. And I'm confused by how so many people think that the Corinthian order and the composite order are a single order called the Corinthian order.
Well, I'll interject, I guess, a little on that, is that if it looks good, fine.
Yeah.
So with this order, that order, or mixing anything, if it looks good, fine. So I'll go that far.
That's fair.
That's my standard.
That's fair. But you know it looks good. That's your thing.
And it does take some practice to know what looks good, which may sound silly, but it's like listening to music. Simple music you can pick up on immediately, but complex music, you have to understand music
Exactly.
to really get it, you know.
And
And art can be the same way.
There's simple music.
Reading books.
Yeah.
You can read books. I'm sure it's happened to me. You can read a book and miss a lot of what the author was telling
Yeah.
you. You didn't register because you don't know enough about reading.
Symbolism and all that.
The symbolism. So
Metaphor.
Yes. Yeah, metaphor. You got it.
But I mean, imagine like a 10-year-old reading Animal Farm and knowing nothing about socialism.
Yeah, it'd be a big, fun animal book.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a very simple book. I mean, I never even finished it, but I should do that. I should start over from the beginning. I had so much work to do when I started reading it. But I feel like talking about your thing where if it looks good, it's right. I think there are some simple songs, as you were saying, that are good songs. There's some complex songs that are good songs, and I've noticed that in terms of architectural detailing, the stuff you buy at the big box stores like Home Depot, Lowe's, whatnot, A-Boy. Do you have A-Boy here?
No.
Oh, it's a big one in Portland. And you buy this trim at these big box stores, and you get an architrave that's like literally 2 inches wide. And historically, look at those big things; those are huge. But I mean, they're from a Second Empire house built in the 1870s. I mean, you remade them, but they originally would have looked like that or similar to that. And I mean, I'm curious how wide this is. This is huge.
Yeah, 5.5.
5.5 inches. Yeah, that's about right. And you go into the Georgian and Federal periods, they were even wider, even though rooms were often lower. And I've noticed that crown moldings, cymations, have become progressively larger because they think that's what impresses people. If you have a large cymation, I mean, that's pretty large, but I guess it's proportional to the room. But
Well, that's a frieze, right? What are we?
I'm talking about the cavetto at the top. It's the molding at the top that's painted green.
Yeah, well, that's not so big. I don't think.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Well, it's called a cavetto when it's concave. That's where the word comes. Concave cavetto. And you get these things that are like massive, and they just have one profile over another profile over another. And meanwhile, you have the architraves, the casings that are like this thick.
Yeah.
And
I've seen hideous misproportional.
And
stuff.
they're watering the profile down so that they can get out of a run of lumber. They can get like 5 casings, whereas you'd have like a 3-inch thick architrave where you'd get like 2 out of one board. You could get like 5 tiny ones out of that same. And even when you have the wide ones, they water it down significantly. And you can't. I honestly believe you're better off framing your windows and doors with 2x4s than you are with buying this fake stuff.
I won't go that far, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah. And also, look at the architraves on your 3rd floor. They're lovely and they're very simple. They just have the little crown at the top and the fillet, and the rest of it's just simple wood. But I mean, when I design my house, in fact, I've already designing it. I have a lot of this like East Lake stuff like this. I love this stuff. I'm so partial to it. I even have a room that has those head blocks with the crosses in them. But yeah.
Well, you better get a job.
I better get a job. Sha-da-da-da, sha-da-da-da-da, ba-doom, sha-da, get a job.
Yep. Journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. You haven't made that single step.
I know.
Well,
Lao Tzu said that, but actually a lot of evidence points to the fact that he didn't say that. They've just
it
attributed
doesn't matter who said it.
It doesn't matter. It's true.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
true.
yeah,
It's good advice. Yeah.
So, well, got anything else?
I'm trying to think. Do you have anything else?
We've been at it a while.
Sorry, I derailed the conversation for so long.
No, that's what a conversation is.
Yeah.
Okay.
I appreciate this. When I come back next time, we should do this again.
Sure.
Thank you, Grandpa. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, talk to you later.
Yeah, you too.
And we'll see you all later also. Bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Thank you, Grandpa.